The Desert Riders thought they ruled the New Mexico borderlands with impunity, terrorizing locals and running their smuggling operations unchallenged. But when they decided to pressure a quiet rancher's wife named Sarah Mitchell, they made a mistake that would haunt them forever. They never bothered to ask why a former Marine Corps scout sniper with the highest confirmed kill count in Afghanistan had chosen such a quiet life in the first place. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the painted rock ranch as Sarah Mitchell completed her daily perimeter check, her boots leaving precise tracks in the desert sand. To anyone watching, she appeared to be just another rancher's wife going about her routine, but Sarah never stopped watching back. Her keen eyes caught the glint of chrome through the mesquite trees. The fourth time this week she'd spotted the same lifted truck making a slow pass along her property line. Different drivers, same skull decal on the door. Desert Riders. Inside the ranch house, Thomas Mitchell sat at the kitchen table, reviewing the local news on his tablet. "They're back again," he said as Sarah entered, not looking up from the screen. "Third pass since sunrise." Sarah poured herself coffee, her movements deliberate and controlled. "Fourth," she corrected quietly. "New vehicle this time. Black Ram 2500, aftermarket suspension. Drivers favoring his left side, old injury affecting his posture behind the wheel." Thomas looked up, meeting her eyes. 8 years of marriage had taught him to read between her words. "They're not just watching anymore, are they?" Sarah settled into her chair, allowing herself a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "No, they're establishing patterns, testing response times, monitoring the sheriff's patrols, delivery schedules, our daily routines." She took a measured sip of coffee. "They'll make their move soon." "We could sell," Thomas suggested, though his tone indicated he already knew her answer. "Their offer is well above market value." "It's not about the money." Sarah's voice carried an edge she rarely allowed herself. "The Desert Riders have bought or pressured their way into controlling every property along the old smuggling routes. This ranch is the last piece they need." "For what?" "That's what I intend to find out." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of engines approaching, not passing by this time, but turning onto their long gravel driveway. Sarah moved to the window, her stance casual, but her mind calculating distances, angles, potential cover. 3 vehicles approached, led by a custom black pickup she recognized from law enforcement bulletins. Marcus Kane, leader of the Desert Riders, former Special Forces turned smuggling kingpin. He'd transformed a small-time group of border criminals into a sophisticated operation spanning 3 states. "Stay inside," Sarah told Thomas, her voice carrying the same quiet authority that had once commanded Marine reconnaissance teams. "Whatever happens, whatever you hear, stay inside." She stepped onto the porch, just as the vehicles stopped in a triangle formation, gravel crunching under their wheels. Kane killed his engine but remained in the driver's seat, removing his sunglasses with practiced theatricality. His 2 companions, harder-looking men with skull patches on their leather vests, flanked the truck. "Mrs. Mitchell," Kane called out, his voice carrying the false charm of a practiced predator. "Beautiful morning for a drive. This is private property, Mr. Kane." Sarah's tone was pleasant, non-confrontational, just another rancher's wife, uncomfortable with unexpected visitors. "That's exactly what I wanted to discuss." Kane swung out of his truck with fluid grace. "This property. My organization has development plans for this region, plans that could benefit everyone." He gestured expansively. "Including you and your husband." Sarah noted how his companions subtly spread out, trying to flank her position. Amateur move. They were telegraphing their intentions to anyone trained to see it. "We're not interested in selling," she replied, maintaining her role. "This ranch has been in my husband's family for generations." "Things change, Mrs. Mitchell." Kane's charm slipped, revealing something colder. "Progress comes whether we want it or not. Smart folks adapt, others," he shrugged, "they tend to get left behind, sometimes tragically." Sarah allowed a trace of fear to show on her face, feeding their assumptions. Let them think they were dealing with a simple rancher's wife. Let them underestimate her. It's what she'd been training them to do for weeks. "Are you threatening us, Mr. Kane?" "Threatening?" He smiled, spreading his hands in a gesture of innocence. "I'm offering you a way forward. $3 million, well above market value, because I respect what you've built here." His voice hardened slightly. "But that offer won't last forever." Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, the picture of intimidated vulnerability. I'll need to discuss this with my husband." "Of course." Kane's smile returned. "Take some time, think it over, but not too much time." He reached into his jacket, making one of his men tense nervously. Another tell Sarah filed away. The man wasn't used to real violence, just intimidation. Kane produced a business card, holding it out. Sarah stepped forward to take it, letting them see her slight tremor. Inside, she was counting weapons, analyzing stances, noting how the men carried themselves. Everything told her these weren't just ordinary criminals. Their quasi-military bearing suggested connections to something bigger. 3 days, Mrs. Mitchell." Kane mounted his truck. "Then we'll need an answer." The vehicles roared away in a cloud of dust, leaving Sarah on the porch. She waited until they were out of sight before her demeanor changed. The trembling stopped. Her posture shifted subtly, center of gravity lowering, weight balanced perfectly. This was the stance that had made her a legend in marine reconnaissance. The shadow hawk preparing to hunt. Thomas emerged from the house. "Sarah." "It's starting," she said softly. "They're getting ready to move on something big, something worth killing for." She turned to her husband, letting him see the steel beneath her quiet smile. "And they just invited the shadow hawk to their party." The small town of Mesa Verde hadn't changed much in the 8 years since Sarah Mitchell had chosen it for her transition to civilian life. The single main street still housed the same family businesses, though now most sported newly installed security cameras and reinforced locks, silent testimony to the desert riders' growing influence. Sarah parked her weathered Ford pickup outside Turner's General Store, noting 3 customized trucks clustered near the entrance. Inside, she could hear raised voices. Eleanor Turner's store had been in her family for 4 generations. Now it was about to become another kind of lesson. 2 men flanked the counter where Eleanor stood, her face pale but determined. The third, wearing a patch identifying him as the Desert Rider's enforcer, leaned forward menacingly. "Protection. Hey, payments ain't optional anymore, Eleanor," he growled. "Town's changing. Be a shame if something happened to this nice place." Sarah selected a basket, moving quietly through the aisles. Her presence registered, she saw the nearest man's hand twitch slightly toward his hip. Ex-military, that telltale gesture. More evidence something bigger was happening with the desert. Riders. "I've already paid the business association," Eleanor's voice carried clearly. "Sheriff Martinez says sheriff ain't in charge anymore." The enforcer swept a display of local honey onto the floor. "We are. 5,000 a month, starting today." Sarah rounded the aisle, her basket filled with normal ranch supplies. She kept her movements deliberate, unthreatening, just another middle-aged woman doing her shopping. "Oh my," she said mildly, stepping in sticky honey. "What a mess. Eleanor, do you have a mop? I'd be happy to help clean up." The men turned, irritation crossing their faces. The enforcer started to speak, but Sarah was already moving past them to the counter, pulling out her wallet. "Adding these to my monthly account," she said cheerfully, "and I'll need a case of that new coffee you got in, the whole bean dark roast. Thomas says it's amazing." Eleanor blinked, then caught on. "Of course, Sarah, I'll get that." From the back. "Take your time." Sarah smiled at the men. "I'm sure these gentlemen were just leaving, weren't they?" The enforcer stepped close, trying to use his bulk to intimidate. "This ain't your business, lady." "No." Sarah's smile remained pleasant, but her eyes changed subtly. Later, the man would try to explain to his associates what he saw in those eyes, something cold, something that triggered instincts he'd learned in combat. "My husband's family helped build this town. Eleanor's grandfather gave him his first job, so maybe it is my business." She turned back to her shopping list, dismissing them. The insult was deliberate, calculated. The enforcer's face reddened, his hand twitching again toward his hip. "You should be careful, Mrs. Mitchell," he growled. "Accidents happen." "Yes, they do?" Sarah didn't look up from her list. "Like 2 weeks ago, when your new recruit had that nasty spill out on County Road 23, the one that wasn't reported." Now she met his eyes. "Funny thing about accidents. You never know who might have seen something." The men exchanged glances. That accident hadn't been reported because it happened during a late-night weapons transfer. No one was supposed to know about it. "We'll finish this later," the enforcer told Eleanor, trying to salvage some authority, but his voice had lost its edge. After they left, Eleanor sagged against the counter. "Thank you, Sarah, but you shouldn't have. They're dangerous." "Yes, they are." Sarah began cleaning up the honey, her movements deliberate and precise. "And they're getting more organized. That's what worries me." Eleanor got the mop. "Sheriff Martinez says they're just passing through, part of some big development deal." "Is that what he says?" Sarah's voice was carefully neutral. "Interesting, because that's not what his deputy told Maria Ramirez when they tried to pressure her into selling last month." She worked in silence for a moment, letting Eleanor process the implications. The store owner was smart. She'd see the pattern. "They're buying up all the land along the old border trails," Eleanor said slowly, "or forcing people to sell. But why? It's just ranch country." "Maybe." Sarah finished mopping. "But it's also the most direct route between the Mexican border and the interstate. Lots of empty land, no cellular coverage in some spots, perfect for moving things that need to stay off the main roads." Eleanor's eyes widened. "You think they're—" "I think," Sarah interrupted gently, "that you should take a vacation, visit your sister in Phoenix, just for a week or 2. "I can't." "The store." Sarah's voice was soft but carried absolute authority. "Please. Things are about to change in Mesa Verde. When they do, it's better if certain people aren't around to see it." Outside, Sarah loaded her supplies into the truck. Her phone buzzed. A text from Thomas. "Sheriff Martinez stopped by after you left, asking questions about our plans for the ranch." Sarah smiled slightly. The pieces were moving exactly as she'd predicted. The desert riders were getting nervous, pushing harder, which meant they had a deadline. Something big was coming. She drove to the outskirts of town, pulling onto a dusty overlook. From here, she could see the border trails stretching south toward Mexico. 8 years ago, she'd been investigating arms trafficking networks that used these same routes before her unit was suddenly reassigned. Now the desert riders were buying up land along the same paths. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The text was brief. "They're watching you, getting nervous, like old days. H." Sarah deleted the message. Captain Harris, her old spotter, was still monitoring things. Good. She'd need backup when the time came. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the desert as Sarah headed home. In her rearview mirror, she caught glimpses of a truck following at a discreet distance. Amateur surveillance. They were watching her while she watched them. Perfect. Everything was falling into place. The Shadowhawk was about to come out of retirement, and the Desert Riders were about to learn why arms traffickers still woke up screaming at the memory of her name. But first, she had to give them exactly what they wanted, one seemingly vulnerable. Rancher's wife, ready to be used as leverage against her husband, the perfect target, the perfect trap. Sarah smiled as she drove. Some predators, after all, hunt best from inside the den. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Dr. Maria Vasquez's clinic sat on the edge of Mesa Verde, a modern medical facility built with old ranch money. As Sarah pulled into the parking lot, she noted 3 new security cameras hidden beneath the eaves, high-end. Models with infrared capability, not the kind of equipment a small-town doctor normally installed. She found Dr. Vasquez in her office reviewing patient files on her laptop. The circles under her eyes spoke of sleepless nights. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said, closing the laptop quickly, "your physical isn't until next week." "The cameras are new," Sarah observed, settling into a chair. "Expecting trouble, Maria?" Dr. Vasquez glanced at her office door before speaking softly. 3 Desert Riders came in last night. Gunshot wounds, said it was a hunting accident. She ran a hand through her graying hair. "Thing is, the wounds were from military-grade weapons, not hunting rifles. Precision shots, all of them." Sarah kept her expression neutral. "Hunting accident. That's what Sheriff Martinez's report says. But I saw the damage, Sarah. These were professional hits, through-and-through wounds, calculated to disable without killing. Someone was sending a message, someone who knows exactly what they're doing." Before Sarah could respond, raised voices erupted from the waiting room. 2 of Kane's men burst in, the same ones from Turner's store. The larger one jabbed a finger at Dr. Vasquez. "Those files you were looking at. Hand them over, now." Sarah remained seated, seemingly forgotten in the corner. She watched Dr. Vasquez stand, noting how her hand moved toward her desk drawer. Former Army medic. She'd have a weapon within reach. "Patient files are confidential," Dr. Vasquez said. "Firmly. You know that." The second enforcer drew a pistol. Amateur move. Threatening instead of acting, Sarah catalogued his weaknesses automatically. Weight too far forward, grip too tight, eyes focusing on his target instead of scanning for other threats. "Confidential doesn't apply anymore, Doc," he growled. "Boss wants those files." "And what exactly does your boss want with private medical records?" Sarah's voice cut through the tension. She hadn't moved from her chair, but something in her tone made both men turn. "Stay out of this, Mrs. Mitchell," the armed one warned. "This ain't your business." "No?" Sarah smiled slightly. "Tell me, did Kane send you for all of Dr. Vasquez's files, or just the ones about last night's hunting accident?" The enforcers exchanged glances. The larger one stepped toward her. "You need to leave, now." Actually, Sarah rose smoothly, her movement making both men instinctively step back. "I think you need to deliver a message to Kane. Tell him if he wants to clean up his messes, he should teach his men better weapons discipline. 3 wounded by friendly fire, that's sloppy." The armed enforcer raised his pistol. "How did you—" "The same way I know about the shipment coming in tonight." Sarah's voice turned cold. "The same way I know why you're really buying up land along the border trails. The same way I know about the deal with the corrupt border patrol agents." Both men went pale. That information was compartmentalized. Nobody outside Kane's inner circle should know about it. "Who are you?" the larger one demanded. "Just a rancher's wife." Sarah moved toward the door, her stride casual, but her path taking her inside their reaction zones. "For now, but you tell Kane something's changed in his operation. Someone's watching, someone who knows how to look." She paused at the door. "Oh, and boys, next time you pull a gun in a doctor's office." She nodded toward Dr. Vasquez's desk. "Check if the target is the only one armed." After she left, the enforcers found Dr. Vasquez calmly holding a compact .45 under her desk. They left without the files. Sarah drove home along the border trails, her mind processing the encounter. The enforcers' reaction confirmed her suspicions. The Desert Riders were running professional weapons shipments using the medical clinic to treat any accidents that occurred, but the operation was bigger than just guns. The land purchases, the border patrol connections, the military-grade weapons, it all pointed to something larger. Her phone buzzed. Another. Text from Captain Harass. Satellite shows increased activity at abandoned Ramirez warehouse. Matches pattern from Kandahar Op. Sarah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The Kandahar operation, her last official mission before being forced into retirement. An international weapons ring using local criminals as cover. The investigation had led to the Mexican border before someone high up shut it down. She found Thomas on the porch, watching the sunset. "They followed you from town," he said quietly. "2 trucks, keeping their distance. They're getting bolder." Thomas studied his wife's face. "You're going to let them take you, aren't you?" "It's the fastest way inside." Sarah touched his arm gently. "Kane's organization is moving something. Big, something worth killing for, but they're sloppy, overconfident, just like in Kandahar. That operation almost got you killed." "No." Sarah's eyes hardened. "That operation got shut down because we got too close to someone powerful, someone who didn't want their connection to international weapons trafficking exposed. Now the same operation has surfaced here." She pulled out her phone, showing Thomas the text from Harass. "The Ramirez warehouse, that's where they'll take me. Perfect sight lines, multiple escape routes, easy access to the border trails." "And if you're wrong?" Sarah smiled, the expression sending chills down Thomas's spine. It was the smile that had made hardened Taliban fighters surrender rather than face her scope. "I'm not wrong. By this time tomorrow, the Desert Riders will make their move. They'll use me as leverage to force you to sell the ranch." Her voice carried absolute certainty. "And that's when the Shadowhawk comes out of retirement. That's when we finish what started in Kandahar." As darkness fell over the Painted Rock Ranch, Sarah Mitchell completed her preparations with methodical precision. Hidden cameras, emergency weapons caches, pre-positioned supplies, everything a hunter needed to turn the tables. Because Sarah hadn't spent the last 8 years just playing rancher's wife, she'd been waiting, planning, watching for the operation to resurface. Now the Desert Riders had given her the perfect opportunity. All she had to do was let them think they were the predators. Night settled over the ranch like a velvet shroud. Sarah sat in darkness, watching her security feeds. The cameras she'd hidden around the property showed 6 Desert Riders taking positions in the scrubland. Their movement patterns confirmed her suspicions. These weren't ordinary criminals. They moved with military precision, using standard tactical approaches. Her phone buzzed silently. "Captain Harass updating. Facial recognition confirms 4 of Kane's new members are ex-Special Forces. Same unit that disappeared in Kandahar." Sarah smiled in the darkness. The pieces were falling into place. The same unit that had provided security for the weapons shipments she'd been investigating before being forced into retirement. Now they were here, working with the Desert Riders. Headlights swept across the ranch house as 3 black SUVs approached, not the usual trucks. The real professionals had arrived. "They're here," she said softly. Thomas's voice came from the darkness behind her. "Last chance to do this differently." "No." Sarah checked her hidden transmitter one last time. "They need to think they have control, need to get inside their operation." She touched his hand briefly. "Remember the signal. If I don't send it every 6 hours, I contact Harass. I remember." Thomas's voice was tight with concern. Just come back to me. Always. The first flashbang crashed through the front window exactly where Sarah had predicted. The tactical team breached with professional efficiency. Two-man teams, coordinated movement, synchronized timing. In another life, she would have commended their technique. Sarah let them find her in the kitchen, appearing appropriately terrified. The team leader, face hidden behind a tactical mask, zip-tied her hands with practiced ease. "Target secured," he reported into his radio. "No complications." They moved her quickly to the waiting SUV. Through her carefully crafted mask of fear, Sarah noted every detail. Six-man team, latest-gen tactical gear, military hand signals. This was no ordinary criminal operation. Kane waited by the vehicles, watching with satisfaction. "Mrs. Mitchell, sorry about the dramatic entrance, but we needed to make a point." "What do you want?" Sarah let her voice tremble. "Same thing as before. The ranch, but now your husband has extra motivation to sell." The drive to the Ramirez warehouse took exactly 12 minutes. Sarah counted every turn, noted every radio call. The tactical team maintained strict communications discipline. Another sign they weren't typical criminals. Inside the warehouse, the setup confirmed her analysis. Professional guard positions, modern surveillance equipment, secure communications center. This wasn't just a temporary holding site. This was an operations base. They secured her to a chair in a central office, giving her clear view of their activities. Overconfidence. They wanted her to see their strength, their professionalism, to feel helpless. Kane pulled up a chair. "Don't worry, this won't take long. Your husband's already received our demands. Once he signs the transfer papers, you'll be free to go." Sarah maintained her frightened demeanor while observing everything. Through the office windows, she could see teams unloading crates from a newly arrived truck, military shipping containers, serial numbers matching the pattern from Kandahar. "Why?" she asked, letting tears fill her eyes. "Why our ranch? There's nothing special about that land." "Actually, there is." Kane leaned back, enjoying his moment of superiority. "The border trails are about to become very important. Certain business opportunities are opening up. Your ranch is the final piece we need." A commotion at the loading dock drew his attention. One of the tactical team members approached rapidly. "Sir, we've got a problem. The shipment manifests don't match. Someone's been tampering with the routing codes." Kane's casual demeanor vanished. "Show me." Sarah watched them examine documents at a nearby desk. The tactical team member pointed to something on a laptop screen. "These serial numbers, they're being tracked. Someone's monitoring the shipments." "Impossible." Kane's voice carried real concern now. "Those codes are classified military eyes only." "Not anymore." The team member lowered his voice, but Sarah's trained hearing caught every word. "Boss, this matches what happened in Kandahar. Remember when that Marine scout sniper almost exposed the whole operation?" Sarah kept her expression fearful, but inside she smiled. They'd taken her exactly where she needed to be, at the heart of their operation, like old times. Her phone, hidden in a concealed pocket, vibrated once. Captain Harris's acknowledgement. The tracking devices she'd attached to their vehicles during the kidnapping were transmitting. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Kane returned, his earlier confidence replaced by barely concealed worry. "Change of plans. We accelerate. The timeline. Get the buyer on secure comms. The whole shipment moves tonight." "Sir," one of his men objected, "the border crossing isn't secured yet." "Now!" Kane ran a hand through his hair. "Something's wrong. This is too similar to Kandahar. We need to finish this before—" He stopped, staring at Sarah with dawning suspicion. For just a moment, she let her mask slip, let him see what was really behind her tears. Kane took an involuntary step back. "Who are you?" Sarah smiled, and for the first time that night, it reached her eyes, the same smile that had haunted insurgent nightmares for decades. "You should have checked more carefully," she said softly. "Should have looked deeper into who you were dealing with." Kane's face went pale. "The Shadow Hawk," he whispered. "You're the Shadow Hawk. Consider this a friendly warning," Sarah continued, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had once made seasoned fighters surrender. "Release me now, leave New Mexico, and this ends here. Continue with tonight's shipment." She shrugged. Against her restraints, "Well, you know what happened in Kandahar." Kane's response was predictable. "Secure her, double the guard. No one goes in or out without my direct approval." He leaned close to Sarah. "Shadow Hawk or not, you're not stopping this shipment. Too much money involved, too many powerful people." "I know," Sarah replied calmly. "That's exactly what I'm counting on." As they left her alone in the office, Sarah began counting down in her head. 3 hours until Harris's team would be in position. 2 hours until the weapons buyers arrived. Just enough time for a hunter to prepare. The Ramirez warehouse hummed with tense activity as Sarah observed from her secured position. Through the office windows, she watched Kane's operation with professional interest. 3 shifts of guards rotating every 4 hours, communication center monitoring police bands. Tactical teams maintaining perimeter security, professional but not flawless. A younger guard approached holding a bottle of water. His patch identified him as a recruit, Rodriguez, according to the name tape on his tactical vest. Former military, based on his bearing, but his eyes showed uncertainty. "Thank you, Rodriguez." Sarah's use of his name made him start slightly. "Marine Force Recon, right? Afghanistan." His expression confirmed her analysis. "How did you—" "The way you move, that distinct Force Recon scanning pattern." She took a sip of water. "Tell me, what did they tell you about tonight's shipment? I'm not supposed to talk to you, but—" He lingered, curious despite himself. "Of course not. The Shadow Hawk is dangerous, even tied to a chair." Sarah's voice carried just enough edge to make him nervous. "But you're already having doubts, aren't you? Wondering why a simple land grab needs military-grade tactical teams, why those crates have chemical warning labels." Rodriguez glanced involuntarily at the loading dock, where teams were preparing the shipment. Sarah noted the reaction. Chemical labels, another piece of the puzzle. "Those aren't just weapons they're moving," she continued softly. "You figured that out, haven't you? Regular guns don't need specialized handling protocols, don't need military security teams." "Shut up!" But his voice lacked conviction. "Did Kane tell you about Kandahar, about what happened to the last team that helped move cargo like this?" A door slammed open as Kane entered, his face tight with controlled anger. "Stop talking to the prisoner!" He dismissed Rodriguez with a gesture, then turned to Sarah. "Trying to turn my men already? You haven't lost your touch." "Just making conversation," Sarah smiled pleasantly. "Reminiscing about old times. Remember Sergeant Torres from Kandahar? The one who helped us expose the operation? He got full immunity." Kane's facade cracked slightly. "You're not getting out of this. Even if you are the Shadow Hawk, you're alone. No backup, no tactical team. Am I?" Sarah shifted slightly, making him tense. "Are you sure about that?" Before he could respond, one of his communication specialists burst in. "Boss, we've got movement, multiple vehicles approaching from the north." "Buyers are early." "Not the buyers." The specialist's voice carried real concern. "Different. Approach pattern. Professional. They're maintaining radio silence." Sarah watched Kane's expression shift. "Expecting someone else?" she asked innocently. His phone buzzed. The color drained from his face as he read the message. "How? This is impossible. Those are classified frequencies." "Are they?" Sarah kept her voice casual. You should ask your weapons buyers about their operational security, particularly their communications protocols, sloppy work using the same frequencies as Kandahar. Kane grabbed her chair, leaning close. What did you do? Me? I'm just a hostage. But her smile suggested otherwise. Although you might want to check your vehicles for tracking devices, standard procedure during a kidnapping, plant trackers during the initial encounter. Your tactical team was so focused on looking professional, they forgot basic counter-surveillance. A new commotion erupted outside. One of the tactical team leaders rushed in. Sir, we've got a problem. Local police scanner just lit up. Multiple and federal agencies coordinating with state police. They're establishing roadblocks on all approaches to the border trails. Shut it down, Kane ordered. Scrub everything. Tell the buyers. Too late. Sarah's voice cut through his growing panic. Those roadblocks aren't random. They're boxing you in, using your own tactical approach against you. Standard Shadow Hawk protocol. Trap them in their own fortress. Kane's phone buzzed again. The message made him curse. The buyers are backing out. Say there's too much heat. Of course they are. Sarah settled more comfortably in her chair. Professional weapons buyers don't like complications. One hint of federal attention, they disappear, taking their money with them. You planned this, Kane accused. The kidnapping, the tracking devices, the buyers getting spooked. You wanted to be caught. Partly true. Sarah met his gaze calmly. I needed to confirm the connection to Kandahar. Needed to identify the real players, Kane. The ones above. You. The ones who shut down my investigation 8 years ago. A new voice crackled over the warehouse speakers. Captain Harass's distinctive tone. Attention, Desert Riders. This is a federal operation. We have you surrounded. All exits are covered. Surrender now. Sarah watched the last of Kane's confidence crumble. You know what happens next, don't you? Your buyers are gone. Your tactical teams are ready to run. And everyone up the chain is already destroying evidence, erasing connections. You're bluffing, Kane snarled. This is just you and Harris trying to... Another specialist rushed in. Boss, we've got satellite coverage, military grade. Someone's painting the building with targeting data. Sarah smiled. Still think I'm bluffing? Sarah watched Kane's organization fracture as federal forces tightened their perimeter. The professional tactical teams had separated themselves from the regular desert riders, their military training evident as they established defensive positions. Sir, Rodriguez, the young recruit, approached Kane nervously. The chemical sensors, they're showing readings from those crates. What exactly are we moving here? Shut up and maintain your position, Kane snapped, but Sarah caught the fear beneath his anger. The operation was unraveling faster than he could control. Tell him, Kane, Sarah suggested calmly from her chair. Tell him about the specialized components, the ones that need those hazmat containers, the ones your buyers are willing to pay millions for. I said, shut up. Kane drew his pistol, but his hand shook slightly. The tactical team leader stepped forward. Boss, we need to make a decision. Local police scanners show federal tactical units moving into position. At least 3 different agencies. Multiple agencies, synchronized approach, Sarah explained helpfully. The same technique I used in Kandahar. She smiled at Kane. Remember how that ended? Half the organization tried to surrender, hoping for deals. The other half, well, hospitals in 3 states got very busy. Rodriguez moved closer to Sarah, his voice low. What happened in Kandahar? Don't answer. Kane started, but Sarah's voice cut through his command. International weapons trafficking, military-grade components being sold to foreign buyers. Sound familiar? She watched Rodriguez's face as realization dawned. Same buyers, same protocols, even the same chemical warnings on the crates. The tactical team leader cursed softly. Those aren't just weapons parts in those containers, are they? We're moving chemical weapons. The warehouse erupted in angry shouts as more desert riders overheard. Regular criminals signed up for guns and drugs, not weapons of mass destruction. Trafficking. Sarah watched the chaos spread with professional satisfaction. "You're enjoying this," Kane accused, his face pale with rage. "Immensely." Sarah shifted in her chair, making her guards tense. "Watch your men, Kane. See how they're dividing military-trained personnel by the exits, regular members clustering together. They're choosing sides, just like Kandahar." An explosion rocked the perimeter as federal forces detonated their first breach charge, not penetrating yet, just demonstrating their position. Classic Shadowhawk protocol, psychological pressure, before physical assault. "Boss!" A communications specialist called from his station. "We're being jammed, all frequencies going dark." "Tell me, Kane." Sarah's voice carried through the growing chaos. "Did your buyers mention what happens to failed operators, the ones who lose shipments? Because I remember files full of accidents and disappearances." More explosions outside. Captain Harris's voice boomed through professional-grade speakers. "Attention all personnel. We have satellite confirmation of chemical weapons components on site. This is now a federal containment operation. Surrender immediately or we will use lethal force." The effect was immediate. Regular desert riders began throwing down weapons. The professional tactical teams established a defensive perimeter, but Sarah could see the uncertainty in their movements. "Chemical weapons components?" Rodriguez whispered, horrified. "We've been moving chemical weapons?" "Not your fault," Sarah told him quietly. "They pick ex-military carefully. Men who follow orders don't ask questions until it's too late." Kane's phone buzzed. His face went ash-white as he read the message. "Let me guess," Sarah said pleasantly. "Your buyers just officially disavowed all connection to this operation. Standard protocol when a shipment is compromised. Right now, they're erasing records, eliminating links. Soon, they'll start eliminating witnesses." The tactical team leader grabbed Kane's arm. "Is she right? Are they going to burn us?" "Nobody's burning anybody." Kane shoved him away. "We stick to protocol, destroy the evidence, eliminate witnesses, break contact." He glanced at Sarah, including her. "You want us to kill a federal agent?" Rodriguez gestured at Sarah. "Former agent," Kane corrected, but his voice lacked conviction. "Actually," Sarah smiled, "my reinstatement paperwork was filed this morning. Captain Harris's orders, full federal authority." She met Kane's eyes. "Want to add killing a federal officer to chemical weapons trafficking charges?" Another explosion, closer now. Through the windows, Sarah could see federal tactical teams. Moving into position, the warehouse had become a trap just as she'd planned. "Options, boss?" The tactical team leader's voice carried military precision, but also fear. "We're running out of time." Sarah watched Kane wrestle with his diminishing choices. Outside, more desert riders were surrendering. The professional teams were separating into smaller groups, some clearly planning to fight while others prepared to run. 10 years, she said softly. 10 years I waited for this operation to resurface, for the real players to show themselves. And you led me right to them. Kane's phone buzzed again. This time reading the message made him stumble. Backward, true terror crossing his face. "They're here," he whispered. Sarah's smile widened. "The buyers. Good, I was hoping they'd come personally." She shifted again, making the chair creak. After all, a hunter can't stalk what it can't see. Until now. 3 black SUVs approached the warehouse's rear entrance, their tinted windows reflecting the security lights. Through her trained eye, Sarah counted 12 men emerging, private military contractors based on their movement patterns. Their leader wore an expensive suit that didn't quite hide his tactical vest beneath. "Marcus Reeves," Sarah said softly, recognizing the weapons buyer from her Kandahar files. Still hiding behind diplomatic credentials, I see. Kane spun to face her. You know him? Of course. He was the one who ordered the Kandahar operation shut down, called in favors, had my investigation buried. Sarah's smile turned predatory. Been waiting a long time to meet him properly. Reeves entered with the confident stride of someone used to owning every room. His security team spread out efficiently, assuming control of key positions from Desert Riders members. Mr. Kane, Reeves's cultured voice carried clear authority. You assured me this facility was secure. It is, Kane started, but Reeves cut him off. Really? Then explain the federal tactical teams outside. Explain how our secure frequencies were compromised. His eyes found Sarah. Explain why you're holding a former Marine Corps scout sniper in your office. Former sniper, Kane corrected automatically. No. Reeves moved closer, studying Sarah. This is the Shadow Hawk, the one who almost exposed our Kandahar operation. A thin smile crossed his face. I wondered if you'd surface again. Couldn't resist, Sarah replied calmly. Same sloppy protocols, same chemical signatures on the shipments. You never learn, Marcus. Sir, Rodriguez shifted nervously. Chemical weapons. You said this was just weapons. Shut up. Kane's control was cracking. Everyone just shut up and maintain position. But Sarah could see the warehouse dynamics shifting. Reeves's security team was isolating the chemical weapons containers, while Desert Riders members began backing away, realizing the true scale of what they'd been involved in. Your men weren't informed. Reeves raised an eyebrow at Kane. Sloppy operational security, just like Kandahar. He turned to his security chief. Prepare for cleanup protocol Alpha. Sarah recognized the code phrase from her old case files. Still eliminating loose ends, Marcus, like those 4 Marines who disappeared after Kandahar. The effect on the tactical teams was immediate. They recognized a cleanup order when they heard one. Several moved toward the exits, while others raised weapons, creating a 3-way standoff between Reeves's men, Desert Riders, and the professional contractors. Another explosion rocked the perimeter. Harass's voice boomed again. This is your final warning. We have tactical teams in position. Surrender now, or we breach with lethal force. Your operation is compromised, Reeves told Kane coldly. Your men are unreliable. Time for professionals to handle this. Like hell, the tactical team leader stepped forward. We're not going down for this. Not getting cleaned up like those guys in Kandahar. Sarah watched the tension rise, counting angles and distances. In the growing chaos, no one noticed her working at her restraints. The zip ties Kane's men had used were professional grade, but they'd missed the ceramic blade hidden in her boot. Amateur mistake. The Shadow Hawk isn't the only one who kept. Files, she announced casually. Captain Harass has copies of everything. Kandahar, the diplomatic cover, the chemical weapons components. One phone call, and it all goes public. Reeves's composed facade cracked slightly. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your secure channels. Notice anything missing, like the routing codes for your shipments? She smiled. The ones being uploaded to federal servers right now. Kane grabbed Reeves's arm. You promised us protection, said we'd have immunity. Reeves's security chief moved with professional efficiency. The suppressed shot dropped Kane before he could finish speaking. The warehouse erupted in gunfire as the 3 factions turned on each other. Sarah used the chaos to make her move. The ceramic blade sliced through her restraints as Rodriguez dove for cover behind her chair. Choose now, Rodriguez, she said calmly, even as bullets whizzed past. Help me secure those chemical weapons. You get immunity. Try to run. She shrugged. Well, you've seen how Reeves handles loose ends. Outside, federal tactical teams began their breach. The warehouse had become a war zone of competing interests. Reeves's professionals trying to secure the shipment, desert riders fighting for survival, and tactical contractors looking for escape. But they'd all forgotten the most important thing about hunting. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you think you have trapped. Sarah moved through the chaos like a shadow, Rodriguez covering her flank. The chemical weapons were her priority, keeping them out of Reeves's hands while federal teams breached. Just like Kandahar, but this time she had what she needed. Proof of the international conspiracy, proof of Reeves's involvement, and witnesses ready to talk. The Shadowhawk was loose, and the real hunting was about to begin. Sarah moved through the firefight with calculated precision, using the chaos as cover. Rodriguez stayed close, following her lead as she navigated between shipping containers. His military training was showing. Good situational awareness, proper tactical spacing. "The chemical weapons," she said during a brief pause in the shooting. "Where exactly?" "Storage Bay 3, Rodriguez replied, checking his ammunition. "Lead-lined containers, chemical warnings, but Reeves's men are between us and—" A burst of gunfire interrupted him as one of Reeves's security teams spotted them. Sarah pulled Rodriguez behind a concrete pillar, analyzing angles and positions. 3 professionals with tactical gear and suppressed weapons, former Special Forces based on their movement patterns. "Remember your force recon training," she said calmly as Reeves's men advanced. "What's the counter for a 3-man wedge formation?" Rodriguez blinked, then understood. As Reeves's men approached, he and Sarah split up, using crossing lines of fire to break their coordinated approach. The Shadowhawk's reputation hadn't been exaggerated. She dropped 2 operators with precise shots to their body armor, disabling without killing, while Rodriguez forced the 3rd to retreat. "Nice work," Sarah acknowledged as they moved forward. Through the warehouse speakers, Captain Harris's voice announced the federal breach was beginning, multiple explosion points creating chaos and confusion. "Secure those containers," Reeves's commanding voice cut through the gunfire. "Nothing else matters." "He's desperate," Sarah observed, leading Rodriguez through a service corridor. "Chemical weapons are just his cover story. There's something else in those containers, something worth killing for." They reached a catwalk overlooking Storage Bay 3. Below, Reeves's men were preparing to move the specialized containers, while remnants of the Desert Riders engaged in a running gun battle with the tactical contractors. Sarah's phone vibrated. A text from Harass. "Thermal imaging shows anomalous readings from containers, not matching chemical weapons profile." "Rodriguez," she said quietly. "What color was the warning symbol on those containers?" "Orange and black, standard hazmat." He stopped, realization hitting. "Wait, chemical weapons warnings are red and white." "Exactly." Sarah smiled grimly. "Reeves has been playing everyone. Even his own buyers think they're getting chemical weapons, but he's shipping something else, something worth creating an elaborate cover story." A new explosion rocked the warehouse as federal tactical teams made their first entry. Reeves's security forces responded with professional precision, while the remaining Desert Riders scattered. "Boss!" one of Reeves's operators called out. "Federal breach teams on 3 sides. We're running out of time." "Get those containers loaded," Reeves ordered. "Use Protocol 7 if you have to." Sarah's expression hardened. "Protocol 7, just like Kandahar." "What's Protocol 7? Rodriguez asked, ducking as bullets sparked off the catwalk railing. "Thermite charges. Destroy everything rather than let it be captured." Sarah checked her ammunition. "That's how they buried the evidence last time. Burned it all, including their own men." Below, Reeves's operators began planting charges while continuing to hold off federal teams. The warehouse had become a complex battlefield, federal agents breaching from multiple points, Desert Riders fighting for survival, tactical contractors looking for escape routes, and Reeves's professionals trying to protect their cargo. time to end this, Sarah said quietly. Rodriguez, I need you to create a distraction. Get their attention focused upward while I... Movement caught her eye. One of Reeves's men was opening a container, preparing to plant charges. For just a moment, Sarah saw inside. Not chemical weapons, something else, something that made her curse softly. Those containers, she said, they're full of servers, data storage. Understanding dawned on Rodriguez's face. Information? They're moving information. Not just any information. Sarah's voice was grim. Those are military-grade quantum encryption servers, black box technology, the kind used to store intelligence operations data, covert assets, black site locations. Someone's stealing classified intelligence files, Rodriguez whispered, using chemical weapons as cover. Another explosion rocked the building as federal teams breached the east wall. Through the chaos, Sarah spotted Reeves heading for a secure exit, protected by his remaining operators. Choose now, she told Rodriguez. Help me stop Reeves. You get full immunity. Everything you did here gets classified as a sanctioned operation. Rodriguez checked his weapon, then nodded. What's the play? First, we need to reach those servers before they trigger the thermite. Then Sarah smiled, the expression sending chills down Rodriguez's spine. Then we show Reeves why they called me the Shadow Hawk. Below, Reeves's men had finished placing charges. Soon they would destroy evidence of one of the largest intelligence and thefts in history. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd given the Shadow Hawk exactly what she needed. Proof of an international conspiracy, proof of Reeves's true operation, and a chance to finish what started in Kandahar. Sarah moved to the catwalk's edge, her voice carrying that quiet authority that had made hardened fighters surrender rather than face her scope. Now, Rodriguez, show me what Force Recon taught you about hunting predators. The Shadow Hawk was done playing defense. It was time to remind everyone why that nickname had haunted smuggler nightmares for 8 years. Sarah and Rodriguez moved along the catwalk with practiced efficiency, using the federal breach points as cover. Below, Reeves's men were starting to trigger the thermite charges, preparing to destroy the intelligence servers. We've got 3 minutes once those charges start, Sarah said, checking angles. After that, thermite burns hot enough to melt through the server casings. Sir, one of Reeves's operators called out, federal teams have breached the east corridor. Captain Harass is leading personally. Reeves's composed facade cracked. Trigger all charges. Nothing can fall into federal hands. He turned to his security chief. Prepare the Black Star protocol. Black Star. Sarah's eyes narrowed. That's the connection I missed. She keyed her hidden comm. Harass, are you receiving? Go ahead, Shadowhawk. Harris's voice was steady, despite the gunfire in the background. Reeves is running the same operation as Black Star. Remember that NSA server farm that got hit? The one where classified files disappeared right before a thermite accident? Through the chaos, Sarah could hear Harass cursing. Son of a... He's not stealing random intelligence. He's building a complete database of covert operations, assets, locations, protocols, enough to compromise every intelligence agency in the Western Hemisphere. Confirmed, Sarah replied, moving into position. Chemical weapons were just cover. Nobody looks too closely at WMD shipments. Too much paperwork. Too many agencies involved. Rodriguez checked his ammunition. How do we stop them? The charges are sequenced, Sarah explained, moving into position. They have to trigger in order or the fail-safes kick in. Standard intelligence protocol. She smiled grimly. The same protocol I helped design. Below, Reeves's men had started the sequence. The first thermite charge ignited with a brilliant flash, starting the countdown to total server destruction. Now! Sarah's command sent Rodriguez into motion. They dropped from the catwalk onto shipping containers, using Reeves's own tactical positioning against him. His men had created perfect cover positions for anyone attacking from ground level. They weren't prepared for threats from above. Sarah moved like her nickname, a shadow flowing between cover points. Two of Reeves's operators went down before. They realized the attack was coming from an unexpected angle. Rodriguez proved his force recon training, providing precise covering fire that forced the remaining security team to retreat. "The servers!" Reeves's voice carried real panic now. "Protect those servers!" But Sarah had reached the first row of containers, her hands moving with practiced speed, disarming the thermite sequence she'd helped develop. Rodriguez kept Reeves's men pinned down while federal breach teams advanced from multiple directions. "It's over, Marcus," Sarah called out, her voice carrying that quiet authority. "Your entire operation is exposed. Black Star, Kandahar, all of it. You don't understand what you're dealing with." Reeves's composure was gone. "This goes higher than you can imagine. Governments, intelligence agencies, people who can make anyone disappear." "You mean like you made those NSA analysts disappear in Black Star?" Sarah moved to the next set of charges. "Or those Marine intelligence officers?" In Kandahar, more federal teams breached the warehouse. Harris's voice boomed through tactical speakers. "All units secure those servers. Priority Alpha." Reeves's remaining operators started to fall back, professionals recognizing a lost cause. But Reeves himself seemed to snap. He charged toward the servers, pulling something from his jacket. "If I can't have the files," he snarled, "nobody can." Sarah recognized the device, a dead man's switch linked to emergency charges. She moved without hesitation, trusting Rodriguez to cover her flank. Her first shot caught Reeves's arm, sending the switch flying. The second hit his tactical vest, driving him back. But Reeves wasn't finished. He drew his sidearm with his off, hand firing wildly. "You have no idea what you're stopping. The power in those files, the secrets, that's your problem, Marcus." Sarah's voice was almost gentle as she closed the distance. "You see secrets as power. I see them as responsibility." The final confrontation happened almost too fast to follow. Reeves, despite his expensive suit and diplomatic credentials, proved he remembered his special forces training. He and Sarah moved in a lethal dance of close-quarter combat, each looking for the decisive advantage. But there was a reason they called her the Shadow Hawk. Reeves never saw the final strike coming. One moment he was pressing his attack. Next he was disarmed and on his knees, Sarah's gun pressed against his head. "Black Star," she said softly. "Kandahar. All those agents who disappeared. Talk fast, Marcus, before I decide you're too dangerous to take alive." Around them, federal teams secured the warehouse. The remaining desert riders surrendered while tactical contractors threw down their weapons. Rodriguez kept guard as Harass approached, his tactical team scanning for remaining threats. "The servers are secure," Harass reported. "Looks like we got to them in time. The intelligence files are intact." Almost too easy, wasn't it? Sarah kept her weapon trained on Reeves. "Almost like someone wanted us to recover these specific servers." Reeves's laughter held no humor. "Finally figured it out, didn't you? You're right, these servers were bait. The real files, the real operation." He smiled coldly. "You've got no idea what's coming." Sarah and Rodriguez moved along the catwalk with practiced efficiency, using the federal breach points as cover. Below, Reeves's men were starting to trigger the thermite charges, preparing to destroy the intelligence servers. "We've got 3 minutes once those charges start," Sarah said, checking angles. "After that, thermite burns hot enough to melt through the server casings." "Sir!" one of Reeves's operators called out. "Federal teams have breached the East Corridor. Captain Harass is leading personally." Reeves's composed facade cracked. "Trigger all charges. Nothing can fall into federal hands." He turned to his security chief. "Prepare the Black Star protocol." "Black Star," Sarah's eyes narrowed. "That's the connection I missed." She keyed her hidden comm. "Harass, are you receiving?" "Go ahead, Shadowhawk." Harass's voice was steady, despite the gunfire in the background. "Reeves is running the same operation as Black Star. Remember that NSA server farm that got hit? The one where classified files disappeared right before a thermite accident?" Through the chaos, Sarah could hear Harass cursing. "Son of a... He's not stealing random intelligence. He's building a complete database of covert operations, assets, locations, protocols, enough to compromise every intelligence agency in the Western Hemisphere." "Confirmed," Sarah replied, moving into position. "Chemical weapons were just cover. Nobody looks too closely at WMD shipments. Too much paperwork, too many agencies involved." Rodriguez checked his ammunition. "How do we stop them?" "The charges are sequenced," Sarah explained, moving into position. "They have to trigger in order, or the fail-safes kick in. Standard intelligence protocol." She smiled grimly. "The same protocol I helped design." Below, Reeves's men had started the sequence. The first thermite charge ignited with a brilliant no flash, starting the countdown to total server destruction. "Now!" Sarah's command sent Rodriguez into motion. They dropped from the catwalk onto shipping containers, using Reeves's own tactical positioning against him. His men had created perfect cover positions for anyone attacking from ground level. They weren't prepared for threats from above. Sarah moved like her nickname, a shadow flowing between cover points. Two of Reeves's operators went down before they realized the attack was coming from an unexpected angle. Rodriguez proved his force recon training, providing precise covering fire that forced the remaining security team to retreat. "The servers!" Reeves's voice carried real panic now. "Protect those servers!" But Sarah had reached the first row of containers, her hands moving with practice speed, disarming the thermite sequence she'd helped develop. Rodriguez kept Reeves's men pinned down while federal breach teams advanced from multiple directions. "It's over, Marcus," Sarah called out, her voice carrying that quiet authority. "Your entire operation is exposed. Black Star, Kandahar, all of it. You don't understand what you're dealing with." Reeves's composure was gone. "This goes higher than you can imagine. Governments, intelligence agencies, people who can make anyone disappear." "You mean like you made those NSA analysts disappear in Black Star?" Sarah moved to the next set of charges. "Or those Marine intelligence officers in Kandahar." More federal teams breached the warehouse. Harris's voice boomed through tactical speakers. "All units secure those servers. Priority Alpha." Reeves's remaining operators started to fall back, professionals recognizing a lost cause. But Reeves himself seemed to snap. He charged toward the servers, pulling something from his jacket. "If I can't have the files," he snarled, "nobody can." Sarah recognized the device, a dead man's switch linked to emergency charges. She moved without hesitation, trusting Rodriguez to cover her flank. Her first shot caught Reeves's arm, sending the switch flying. The second hit his tactical vest, driving him back. But Reeves wasn't finished. He drew his sidearm with his off hand firing wildly. "You have no idea what you're stopping. The power in those files, the secrets. That's your problem, Marcus." Sarah's voice was almost gentle as she closed the distance. "You see secrets as power. I see them as responsibility." The final confrontation happened almost too fast to follow. Reeves, despite his expensive suit and diplomatic credentials, proved he remembered his special forces training. He and Sarah moved in a lethal dance of close-quarter combat, each looking for the decisive advantage. But there was a reason they called her the Shadowhawk. Reeves never saw the final strike coming. One moment he was pressing his attack, the next he was disarmed and on his knees, Sarah's gun pressed against his head. "Black Star," she said softly. Kandahar. All those agents who disappeared. Talk fast, Marcus, before I decide you're too dangerous to take alive. Around them, Federal. Team secured the warehouse. The remaining desert riders surrendered while tactical contractors threw down their weapons. Rodriguez kept guard as Harris approached, his tactical team scanning for remaining threats. The servers are secure, Harris reported. Looks like we got to them in time. The intelligence files are intact. Almost too easy, wasn't it? Sarah kept her weapon trained on Reeves, almost like someone wanted us to recover these specific servers. Reeves's laughter held no humor. Finally figured it out, didn't you? You're right. These servers were bait. The real files, the real operation. He smiled coldly. You've got no idea what's coming. Sarah met Harris's eyes. They both recognized the implications. This wasn't just about stolen intelligence anymore. Someone had used Reeves's operation to distract from something bigger, something worth sacrificing an entire intelligence theft ring to hide. The Ramirez warehouse had become a federal crime scene. Technical teams swarmed the server containers, while tactical units secured the perimeter. Sarah watched them work from a makeshift command post, her mind processing patterns she might have missed. The servers were a distraction, she told Harris, as they reviewed preliminary data. Reeves wanted us focused on the intelligence theft, while something bigger moved into position. Makes sense. Harris pulled up satellite imagery on his tactical tablet. We've got increased activity at 3 other sites along the border trails, all showing the same chemical weapons signature we tracked here. Rodriguez, now officially working with the federal team, studied the images. Those are the properties. The desert riders were forcing people to sell. They needed the whole route. Sarah nodded. Not for moving servers, for moving something else, something worth burning an entire intelligence operation to hide. Reeves sat handcuffed nearby, his expensive suit now dirty and torn. But his earlier panic had been replaced by an unsettling calm. You still don't see it, do you? He smiled at Sarah. All these years hunting shadows, you never asked who really shut down your Kandahar investigation, who had that kind of authority. General Phillips, Sarah replied. He claimed national security concerns. Phillips was a messenger, Reeves laughed softly. Just like I'm a messenger, there are larger forces at work, Shadowhawk. Forces that make your federal badge look like a child's toy. A commotion at the perimeter drew their attention. A black SUV with diplomatic plates had arrived, accompanied by 2 more vehicles with government markers. Right on time, Reeves murmured. A man in an expensive suit emerged from the SUV, flanked by security. He moved with the confident stride of someone used to absolute authority. Sarah recognized him immediately. Richard Blackwood, she said softly, Deputy Director of Defense Intelligence. Well, Harris cursed under his breath, Blackwood was in charge of oversight for the Black Star operation. The one where those servers disappeared, Sarah corrected, watching Blackwood approach. The one where agents disappeared. Blackwood's security team spread out professionally as he reached the command post. His smile was practiced, political. Agent Mitchell, quite a situation you've uncovered here. Unfortunately, this operation now falls under national security oversight. We'll take it from here. Sarah studied him carefully. Will you? Like you took over Black Star? Kandahar? Blackwood's smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. Careful, Agent. Some questions are above your pay grade. Like why the Deputy Director of Defense Intelligence is personally interested in a desert smuggling operation? Sarah's voice remained neutral. Or why chemical weapons signatures are showing up at multiple sites along the border trails. This is now a classified operation, Blackwood replied. All evidence and prisoners will be transferred to federal custody, including Mr. Reeves. Sir, Rodriguez spoke up, his voice carrying military precision. Those chemical signatures, they're moving. 3 convoys all heading north toward the border. Blackwood's security team subtly shifted positions, hands moving closer to weapons. The tension in the command post ratcheted up. "Stand down, Agent Mitchell," Blackwood ordered. "That's a direct command from the Office of Defense Intelligence." Sarah smiled, the expression sending chills through the room. "Here's the problem, Director. I've spent 8 years tracking this operation, watching patterns, connecting dots." She moved with deliberate calm, making Blackwood's security team nervous. "And now I know why Kandahar was shut down, why Black Star was buried. Because someone high up in defense intelligence is running their own operation, moving something so classified, it's worth killing to protect. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Blackwood's political mask cracked slightly. The bigger picture is that American agents are dying," Sarah cut him off. "Disappeared, eliminated, buried in accidents when they get too close, just like you planned for me in Kandahar." Blackwood's hand moved toward his jacket. "That's enough. Security, take them into custody. All of them." But Sarah had been waiting for this. Her phone broadcast a pre-recorded message to every federal frequency. "Attention all units. Be advised Operation Sandstorm is now active. Authorization code, Shadowhawk 7 Delta." Through the warehouse windows, they could see tactical teams moving into new positions, not Blackwood's security, but Sarah's people, the ones she'd spent 8 years placing carefully. "It's called having a longer game, Director," she said softly. "While you were watching for shadows, I was building an army." Blackwood's face showed real fear now. "You can't. This operation is vital to national security. The material being moved is what exactly?" Sarah's voice carried absolute authority. "Because in about 30 seconds, every federal agency in 3 states will be moving on those convoys. So talk fast, Director. What are you really moving through my territory?" The Shadowhawk had just changed the game. The question was, how far up did the conspiracy really go? Blackwood's security team maintained their positions, but Sarah could see the uncertainty in their stance. Professional operators recognized when a situation had shifted beyond their control. Those convoys. Sarah kept her voice calm while reviewing tactical feeds. They're not just heading for the border, they're converging on specific coordinates. She tilted her head. "Care to explain why the Deputy Director of Defense Intelligence is coordinating with foreign buyers on American soil?" "You have no authority," Blackwood started, but Sarah cut him off. 3 teams of federal tactical units moving to intercept," she announced, letting him see the live feeds. "Satellite coverage showing your convoy routes, and most importantly," she smiled coldly, "complete records of every operation you've buried. Kandahar, Black Star, all of it." James approached with new data on his tablet. "Ma'am, we've got thermal imaging from the convoy loads, not matching any known chemical weapons profile." "Because it's not chemical weapons, is it, Director?" Sarah said, watching Blackwood's reaction. "That was just cover for what you're really moving, something worth compromising defense intelligence for." Blackwood's political mask cracked. "Further, you don't understand. These materials, they're beyond classified, beyond any normal protocol." "Sir!" one of his security team reported urgently. "Federal units have blocked all access routes to Highway 15. The convoys are being boxed in." Sarah's phone buzzed. Harass coordinating. The intercept teams were in position, convoy leaders requesting direct orders from Blackwood. They were nervous. "Talk fast, Director," Sarah advised as she watched panic spread across Blackwood's face. "Because in about 5 minutes, those convoys hit our roadblocks. Then everyone sees what you're really transporting." "You can't stop this," Blackwood's voice held desperate authority. "These shipments are vital to national security, to relationships with our allies." "Allies?" Sarah stepped closer, making his security team tense. "Like the buyers in Black Star, the ones who disappeared our intelligence agents after getting what they wanted?" James checked another tactical feed. "Ma'am, Convoy 2 is attempting to divert onto county roads. Local units moving to intercept." Blackwood grabbed for his phone, but Sarah was faster. "Let me guess, calling to authorize lethal force, just like Kandahar?" She held up her own phone, showing him the signal jammer. "No more buried operations, Director. No more disappeared agents." "You don't have the authority," Blackwood began, but Sarah's laugh cut him off. "I have something better than authority," she said softly. "I have proof. Proof of every operation you've compromised, every agent you've sacrificed, every deal you've made with foreign intelligence services." She nodded to Rodriguez. "Show him." Rodriguez displayed his tablet, showing Blackwood surveillance photos, financial records, communication logs, 10 years of carefully gathered evidence. "You've been playing chess," Sarah explained. "I've been playing a longer game. Every site you've used, every route you've established, every contact you've made. I've been watching, waiting, building the case that would expose everything." Blackwood's security team looked increasingly uncertain. These were professional operators, trained to protect government officials, but they weren't trained for this, for discovering their boss was compromising national security. "Sir," the team leader said carefully, "we need to know, are these shipments authorized by the Defense Intelligence Committee?" "Stand down," Blackwood ordered, but his voice shook slightly. Sarah pressed her advantage. "Tell them, Director. Tell them about the real buyers, the ones who've been purchasing classified intelligence, acquiring restricted materials, eliminating witnesses." "Ma'am!" Rodriguez called urgently. "Convoy 3 is stopped. Their security teams are surrendering." "To federal units!" Blackwood moved with desperate speed, drawing a concealed weapon. But Sarah had been waiting for this too. She countered with practiced efficiency, disarming him before his own security could react. "That's the problem with corrupt officials," she said, as Blackwood went to his knees, clutching his injured hand. "They always think they're the smartest ones in the room, always think they're untouchable." Her phone buzzed again, Harass updating, "All convoys contained." "You need to see what they're carrying," he reported. "This goes deeper than we thought." Sarah kept Blackwood covered while his security team, now fully aware of the situation, secured him properly. "Now," she said softly, letting him see the shadow that had haunted smuggler nightmares. "Let's talk about what you're really moving through my territory, and who you're really working for." The game had changed. The real operation was about to be exposed, and Blackwood was about to learn why they called her the Shadow Hawk, because once she started hunting, nowhere was safe to hide. Through the warehouse windows, the desert sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the command post. Sarah watched as Blackwood's carefully constructed world crumbled around him. The Shadow Hawk's patience had finally paid off, but she knew this was just the beginning. Someone had given Blackwood his orders, someone with enough power to compromise Defense Intelligence itself. The hunt wasn't over. It was about to enter an even darker territory. The first images from the intercepted convoys made even Sarah pause. The trucks weren't carrying chemical weapons or typical contraband. What they discovered was far more sinister. "Biotech research equipment," Rodriguez reported, reviewing the manifest. "Advanced genetic sequencing systems, experimental viral containment units, prototype synthesis labs. Everything needed to build a next-generation biological weapons facility." Blackwood, now securely restrained, laughed bitterly. "You have no idea what you've done. The arrangements in place, the deals with foreign research divisions." "You mean like these?" Sarah displayed intercepted communications on the command post screens, arrangements with rogue bioweapons programs, sales of classified research, transfer of restricted pathogens to foreign powers. She studied Blackwood's reaction. "All authorized under your security clearance." Captain Harris's voice crackled through the tactical comm. Shadowhawk, you need to see this. Convoy 3 was carrying personnel files, lists of covert scientists, black site lab locations, active research details. He wasn't just selling technology, Sarah realized, watching Blackwood's expression. He was selling out our entire biodefense network. Every researcher, every facility, every security protocol. You think too small, Blackwood sneered. This is bigger than bioweapons, bigger than national security. This is about the future of biological warfare itself. Rodriguez approached with new data. Ma'am, we're tracking multiple unauthorized satellite uplinks. Someone's activated emergency protocols at the other border sites. Sarah smiled coldly. Your buyer's getting nervous, Director, realizing their investment is about to be exposed. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Blackwood's voice held real fear now. These people, they don't just eliminate witnesses, they erase entire operations, make whole research divisions disappear. Like they tried to do in Kandahar? Sarah moved closer, letting him see the predator behind her calm exterior. Tell me, Director, who really ordered my investigation shut down? Who has enough authority to bury evidence of international bioweapons theft? Before Blackwood could respond, Rodriguez called out urgently, multiple vehicles approaching from the north, diplomatic plates, but the thermal signatures, they're carrying military-grade equipment. Your real masters arriving? Sarah asked Blackwood. The ones who've been buying America's biological secrets? Blackwood's face went pale. You don't understand. They'll kill everyone, clean the whole operation, just like Black Star. No, Sarah's voice carried absolute certainty. They won't. She keyed her tactical comm. All units, this is Shadowhawk. Execute Operation Nightshade Protocol. Around the warehouse perimeter, hidden federal teams emerged from concealed positions. Not regular tactical units, but specialized operators. The ones Sarah had spent years recruiting and positioning. See, Director, she explained calmly. While you were selling out our biodefense network, I was building my own. Every researcher you threatened, every operator you tried to silence, I gave them a new purpose, a way to fight back. Rodriguez checked the tactical feeds. Foreign teams entering our containment zone. 8 vehicles, multiple armed operators. Let them come, Sarah said softly. Let them see what happens when they push American scientists too far, when they try to buy and sell our people like commodities. Blackwood struggled against his restraints. You don't have the authority. These are foreign intelligence services. Diplomatic immunity. Diplomatic immunity doesn't cover bioterrorism. Sarah cut him off. Doesn't protect people who sell out their own country. She turned to the tactical screens, watching the approaching vehicles. And it definitely doesn't shield foreign agents conducting hostile operations on American soil. Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign teams taking positions, professional operators used to working with impunity under diplomatic cover. But they weren't prepared for what awaited them. The Shadowhawk had spent 8 years building this moment, creating a force capable of standing against corrupt officials and foreign intelligence services. Rodriguez, Sarah ordered calmly, show them what happens when they hunt on our ground. The real operation was about to begin, and the Shadowhawk was done playing defense. The buyers had finally shown themselves, and they were about to learn why some shadows were best left undisturbed. The desert wind carried the scent of sage and gunpowder as the final confrontation approached. Sarah Mitchell, the legendary Shadowhawk, had drawn them all into her territory. Now it was time to show them why even the most dangerous predators feared hunting in another hunter's domain. The foreign teams made their first mistake immediately, treating this like a standard deniable operation. Their vehicles approached. In tactical formation, operators ready to use diplomatic immunity as cover. They weren't expecting Sarah's people. Multiple teams converging, Rodriguez reported from Tactical. Standard infiltration pattern. They're moving to secure the biotech shipments. Identify their tactical channels yet? Yes, ma'am. Same. Frequencies they used in Black Star. Sarah smiled coldly. Patch me in. The foreign operator tactical channel crackled with her voice. Attention unauthorized foreign intelligence teams. This is U.S. Agent Sarah Mitchell. You are conducting hostile operations on American soil. Stand down or face immediate response. Their reaction was predictable, accelerating their approach, weapons ready, standard protocol when diplomatic cover was threatened. They're not stopping, Blackwood warned almost desperately. You don't understand what they're capable of. No, Sarah corrected calmly. They don't understand what we're capable of. She keyed her tactical comm. All units execute containment protocol. The foreign team's formation suddenly collapsed as hidden federal operators emerged from pre-positioned sites. Not regular tactical units, but specialized teams Sarah had assembled over years. Operators who'd survived previous cleanup attempts, who understood exactly what they were fighting. Sir, one of the foreign team leaders called urgently through the tactical channel. We're boxed in. These aren't standard federal units. Because we're not standard federal units, Sarah replied through their comm. We're the ones you tried to eliminate, the ones who survived Black Star, Kandahar, all your other cleanup operations. Rodriguez monitored the tactical feeds as Sarah's team systematically isolated and contained the foreign operators. Professional efficiency against professional efficiency, but Sarah's people had the advantage of preparation and righteous anger. Ma'am, Rodriguez called out, foreign teams are receiving new orders. Their diplomatic vehicles are powering up some kind of electronic warfare suite. Expected that. Sarah nodded to a hidden signal team. They activated pre-positioned jammers, cutting off the foreign team's advanced electronics, another layer of preparation revealed. Blackwood watched with growing horror as his backup plan collapsed. This is impossible. These protocols, this level of coordination. What's impossible, Sarah cut him off, is thinking you could keep selling out American scientists without consequences. That we wouldn't find each other, organize, prepare to fight back. Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign teams realizing their situation. Diplomatic immunity meant nothing here. Their advanced technology was neutralized. They were facing opponents who'd studied their tactics, who knew their protocols, who'd prepared specifically to counter them. Last chance, Sarah announced on their tactical channel. Surrender now or discover why they call me the Shadow Hawk. Rodriguez checked the feeds. Foreign teams are deploying specialized units, some kind of counterintelligence operators. Good. Sarah's smile was predatory. Show them what a real counterintelligence operation looks like. Her hidden teams moved with lethal precision, using everything they'd learned from surviving previous encounters. The foreign operators found themselves systematically isolated, their tactical advantages neutralized, their diplomatic cover meaningless. This is what happens, Sarah told Blackwood as they watched. When you betray your own people, when you sell them out to foreign powers, they don't just disappear, they learn, adapt, come back stronger. Blackwood's face showed real understanding now. You didn't just build a tactical team, you built a shadow agency. We built ourselves, Sarah corrected. Every scientist you tried to eliminate, every operator who survived your cleanup attempts, we found each other, organized, prepared for this moment. Ma'am, Rodriguez reported urgently, foreign teams are attempting to trigger some kind of failsafe, remote detonation signals. Blocked, Sarah assured him. We studied their protocols after Black Star. No more convenient explosions to cover their tracks. The foreign team's tactical channel erupted with urgent communications as they realized the trap they were in. These weren't regular federal agents they could intimidate with diplomatic credentials. These were survivors, operators who'd faced their cleanup teams before and lived to fight back. "Sir!" one of the foreign commanders called desperately. "We need authorization for maximum force." "Your authorization is meaningless here," Sarah replied through their comm. "This isn't a diplomatic operation anymore. This is judgment." Around the warehouse perimeter, her teams continued their systematic containment. Each foreign operator faced the consequences of their previous actions. The agents they'd tried to eliminate now returned with righteous purpose. The Shadowhawk's hunt was reaching its climax, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The Ramirez warehouse had become ground zero for an international incident. Sarah's teams maintained their containment of the foreign operators, while technical units secured the intercepted bioweapons materials. "Two more diplomatic vehicles approaching from the east," Rodriguez reported. "Different configuration. Looks like command and control units." Sarah nodded. "Their senior officers arriving to take control, right on schedule." She turned to Blackwood. "Want to tell me who's really in charge of your operation? Who has the authority to deploy foreign bioweapons teams on American soil?" Blackwood's earlier arrogance had vanished, replaced by growing fear. "You don't understand. These people, they control everything. Intelligence services, military contracts, international research protocols." "The consortium," Rodriguez said quietly, showing Sarah his tablet. "Ma'am, I'm finding references in the convoy files. Some kind of international oversight group operating above normal intelligence channels." Sarah studied the data. Not oversight. Infiltration. Using corrupt officials like Blackwood to steal. Classified research, compromise security networks, eliminate anyone who gets too close. "They're not going to stop," Blackwood warned. "The consortium doesn't leave loose ends. They'll burn everything, kill everyone, like they tried in Black Star." Sarah's voice carried deadly calm. "Like Kandahar. That's the problem with operating in shadows, Director. Sometimes you find real hunters." The foreign tactical channel erupted with new activity as the command vehicles arrived. Rodriguez monitored their communications. Multiple authorization. Codes being transmitted. They're trying to activate some kind of kill switch in the biotech materials. "Won't work," Sarah said confidently. "We've already isolated the viral containment units. No remote access, no self-destruct protocols." She smiled at Blackwood's surprise. "We learned from Black Star, no more convenient accidents to cover your tracks." Through the command post windows, they could see the foreign teams regrouping around their newly arrived leadership. Professional operators adjusting tactics, preparing for a more coordinated assault. "Ma'am!" Rodriguez called urgently. "The command vehicles are broadcasting on restricted frequencies. Same pattern as the Kandahar operation." Sarah's expression hardened. "Show me." The tactical screen displayed communication patterns that confirmed her suspicions. "These aren't just foreign intelligence services," she explained. "This is who really shut down my investigation. The ones Blackwood really works for." "The consortium," Rodriguez understood. "They're here personally." "Of course they are." Sarah checked her tactical feeds. "We've got their stolen biotech, their compromised agents, proof of their entire operation. They have to try to contain this." Blackwood struggled against his restraints. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. The consortium controls everything: intelligence services, military operations, international research." "No," Sarah cut him off. "They control people like you, corrupt officials willing to sell out their own country. But they've never faced people like us, the ones who survived their cleanup operations, the ones who learned to hunt back." The foreign tactical channel crackled. With a new voice, cultured, authoritative, used to absolute obedience. "Shadowhawk," the voice said, "you've caused quite a problem. Perhaps we should discuss terms." "Director Ashcroft," Sarah replied calmly, "still hiding behind diplomatic immunity? Or did you bring your wetwork teams this time, like Black Star? A pause on the channel, then, you seem well informed. I had 8 years to study your operation, to track your patterns, document your crimes, build a case that goes all the way to the top. Sarah's voice carried absolute certainty. Would you like to know what else I found? What other evidence I've accumulated about the consortium? Another pause. You're bluffing. No. Check your secure channels. Notice anything missing? 8 years of classified communications, operational plans, financial transfers. Amazing what you can access when you know where to look. Rodriguez monitored the foreign team's reaction. They're receiving new data, ma'am. Something's got them spooked. That would be the files I just transmitted to every major intelligence agency in the world, Sarah explained. Proof of the consortium's existence, their operations, their crimes. No more shadows to hide in. You've just started a war. Ashcroft's voice carried real fear now. No, Sarah corrected. I've just finished one. The war you've been waging against your own scientists, your own security services. She smiled coldly. Welcome to the Shadowhawks hunting ground, Director. Time to face judgment. The real endgame was about to begin. The command vehicle's heavily tinted windows finally opened, revealing the true face of the consortium. 3 figures emerged. Not the military operators or intelligence agents Sarah's team had been containing, but elegant men in expensive suits. People used to wielding power from comfortable offices, not tactical situations. Directors Ashcroft, Chen and Volkov. Sarah identified them through the command post window. The ones who really control international bioweapons research. The ones who ordered Kandahar buried. Rodriguez checked his tactical feeds. Ma'am, we're getting responses from intelligence agencies worldwide. Your evidence dump is causing chaos. In every major capital. Of course it is, Sarah smiled coldly. 8 years of classified consortium operations suddenly exposed. Every corrupt official, every compromised scientist, every illegal operation, all public now. Blackwood watched the consortium members approach with growing dread. They'll kill everyone, burn everything. They can't afford witnesses. That's your mistake, Director, Sarah cut him off. Still thinking like they do. Still believing in their shadows. She keyed her tactical comm. All units, prepare to receive consortium leadership. The 3 directors walked with careful precision through the contained foreign operators. Their expensive shoes, incongruous on the warehouse's concrete floor. Ashcroft, their apparent leader, maintained his diplomatic facade. Agent Mitchell, he greeted smoothly. I must protest this unprecedented breach of diplomatic protocol. Save it, Sarah interrupted. Your diplomatic cover is blown. Right now, every intelligence agency in the world is reviewing proof of your existence. The consortium isn't a whispered rumor anymore. Chen stepped forward, his cultured voice carrying subtle threat. You have no idea what you've done, the careful balance we maintain. You mean the balance of power you've stolen? Sarah's voice could have frozen flame. Using people like Blackwood to compromise research facilities. Eliminating scientists who get too close? We maintain order, Volkov insisted. Control the flow of research, prevent destructive conflicts by selling classified bioweapons to the highest bidder. Rodriguez displayed intercepts on the tactical screen. By trading military secrets between nations. Ashcroft's diplomatic mask cracked slightly. Agent Mitchell, surely we can discuss this reasonably. Your evidence, while concerning, could be explained like you explained Black Star? Sarah moved with predatory grace, making the directors step back. Like Kandahar. No more explanations, no more shadows to hide in. Through the command post windows, they could see more federal units arriving. Not regular tactical teams, but specialized units responding to Sarah's evidence release. The kind of operators who handled major international incidents. It's over, Sarah told the directors. Your network is exposed. Your corrupt officials are being arrested worldwide. Your carefully constructed shadow empire is falling apart in real time. You don't understand what you're unleashing. Ashcroft's voice held real fear now. The chaos when these secrets emerge. I understand perfectly. Sarah's smile was terrifying in its calm. I understand you've spent decades manipulating research facilities, compromising scientists, eliminating anyone who threatened your power. Now those same scientists are coming for you. Rodriguez monitored global communications. Ma'am, we're getting confirmation. Intelligence agencies worldwide are moving on consortium facilities. Arrests being made at highest levels. Impossible, Chen whispered. Our security protocols were compromised the moment you tried to eliminate me in Kandahar, Sarah explained. You see, that's the problem with people who think they're untouchable. They never look for hunters in their own shadows. The consortium members' composure finally shattered as they realized the true scope of their situation. Sarah hadn't just exposed their operation, she'd systematically dismantled their entire power structure. Your choice is simple, she told them quietly. Surrender now, provide evidence against your entire network, and maybe you survive what's coming. Or, she shrugged, find out why they call me the Shadow Hawk. Ashcroft made a desperate gesture to his contained operators. Maximum force, eliminate everyone. But the foreign teams didn't move. They'd seen Sarah's evidence, understood what the consortium really was. Professional operators faced with proof they'd been working for criminals who manipulated research facilities for profit. They won't help you, Sarah said softly. No one will. Welcome to judgment, directors. The ghosts you created are coming home to haunt you. The consortium's reign was ending, and the Shadowhawks' hunt was almost complete. The consortium members' composed facades had crumbled, replaced by the desperate calculation of cornered predators. Sarah watched them process their situation, noting every micro-expression, every tell that might telegraph their next move. "Ma'am," Rodriguez reported urgently, "multiple high-level communications being detected. The consortium is activating some kind of emergency protocol." "Of course they are." Sarah's voice remained calm. "Show me." The tactical screens displayed a surge of encrypted transmissions. Ashcroft pulled out a satellite phone, his hands shaking slightly as he input commands. "Last chance, Shadowhawk," he said, trying to reclaim his authoritative tone. "You have no idea what failsafes we've built into the global research network. What chaos we can unleash. You mean like Operation Chimera?" Sarah's question made all three directors freeze. "Your emergency protocol to release experimental pathogens worldwide. Interesting plan. Shame about the back door we found in the containment systems." Chen's diplomatic mask cracked completely. "Impossible. Those systems are quantum encrypted." "By the same technology you were stealing." Sarah nodded to Rodriguez, who displayed more tactical data. "The technology we've been studying for the past 8 years. Amazing what you can learn when you know where to look." Through the command post windows, they could see the contained foreign operators watching the exchange intently, professional agents recognizing the shift in power dynamics. "Sir," Rodriguez called out, checking new feeds, "consortium facilities worldwide are going into lockdown. They're trying to purge their systems." "Too late," Sarah said coldly. "The evidence is already spreading. Every intelligence agency, every law enforcement organization, every military research facility, they're all seeing exactly who's been manipulating them." Volkov made a subtle hand gesture to his security team. "Then perhaps it's time for more direct measures." "I wouldn't," Sarah advised quietly. "Your operators have already seen the evidence. They know what you really are now. How many scientists you've sacrificed, how many research operations you've compromised for profit." She smiled at the foreign teams. "Isn't that right?" The professional operators remained disciplined, but their stance had changed. Men and women trained to follow orders now faced proof their leaders were criminals who'd manipulated research facilities for personal gain. Ashcroft's satellite phone chirped. His face went ash-white as he read the message. "No, this is impossible." "Your Swiss accounts?" Sarah asked pleasantly. "Amazing how quickly banks cooperate when presented with evidence of international criminal conspiracy. Your emergency funds are being frozen as we speak." Chen grabbed Ashcroft's arm. "The containment sites, if we can reach, already compromised," Rodriguez reported, displaying more tactical feeds. "Federal teams are moving on consortium facilities across 3 continents. Your backup plans are falling apart in real time." Sarah watched the director's composure disintegrate as decades of careful manipulation collapsed around them. "You built your power on shadows," she told them quietly. "Use them to hide your operations, eliminate threats, maintain control. But shadows work both ways. Sometimes they hide the hunters, not just the hunted." Through her tactical comm, Captain Harass's voice reported, "Shadowhawk, we've got confirmation. Consortium leadership worldwide is being taken into custody. Their network is exposed." "You've doomed us all," Ashcroft snarled, desperation replacing his diplomatic tone. "The secrets we contain, the research we control, releasing them will destroy the balance of power." "The balance you manufactured," Sarah's voice carried deadly calm. "The one you maintained by selling military bioweapons, compromising scientists, eliminating anyone who threatened your control." Rodriguez monitored global communications. "Ma'am, intelligence agencies worldwide are coordinating response. They're shutting down consortium operations, securing compromised facilities." "Your choice is simple," Sarah told the directors. "Surrender now, provide evidence against your entire network, face justice in multiple jurisdictions. Or," she shrugged, "find out what happens when every intelligence service you've manipulated decides to hunt you." Ashcroft made one final, desperate play. He pulled a small device from his jacket, some kind of dead man's switch. "Kill codes," he announced, "embedded in every major research facility. One signal and—" The device clattered from his hand, disabled by a precise shot from Rodriguez. Sarah hadn't even seen the young operator draw his weapon. "Nice shot," she acknowledged, "and excellent trigger discipline, hitting the transmitter housing without damaging the circuitry." "Force recon training, ma'am," Rodriguez replied professionally. "Plus, I've spent the last hour studying consortium equipment signatures. Their fail-safe devices all have the same weak point." The directors stared at their fallen device, their last desperate gambit neutralized with surgical precision. Around them, their contained foreign operators began formally surrendering to Sarah's. "Teams. You see," Sarah explained almost gently, "that's the difference between us. You spent decades building power through manipulation and fear. I spent 8 years building something stronger. A network of professionals who understand real loyalty, who remember what it means to serve justice, not profit." Ooh. Through the command post windows, they could see more federal units arriving. Specialized teams coordinating with international task forces, preparing to take the consortium leadership into custody. The hunt was reaching its end, but Sarah knew from experience that the most dangerous predators were the ones with nothing left to lose. The warehouse erupted in chaos as Ashcroft made his final desperate move. Despite being in custody, the consortium leader had one last card to play. He triggered a hidden device in his watch, and suddenly emergency protocols activated across all communication channels. "Ma'am!" Rodriguez called urgently. "Multiple systems going dark. Some kind of coordinated cyber attack." "Their doomsday protocol," Sarah explained calmly, watching security systems crash around them. "The consortium's ultimate failsafe, designed to create enough chaos to cover their escape." Through the command post windows, they could see the effects spreading. Security cameras failed, communication networks crashed, even the federal tactical team's encrypted channels went silent. "You should have taken the deal," Ashcroft sneered, his composed facade returning. "Now everything burns, just like Kandahar." But Sarah smiled, the expression sending chills through the room. "You really should have checked who designed your emergency protocols. After Kandahar, we knew you'd try something like this." Rodriguez worked his console with practiced efficiency. "Backup systems engaging, ma'am. Everything exactly where you said it would be." The consortium members watched in growing horror as their failsafe turned against them. Instead of crashing systems, their protocol was now exposing hidden networks, revealing secret communications, laying bare decades of carefully concealed operations. 8 years, Sarah explained quietly. 8 years studying your patterns, your protocols, your fail-safes. Did you really think we wouldn't be ready for this? Chen lunged for Rodriguez's console, but the young operator moved with military precision. The consortium member found himself face down, professionally restrained before he could reach the equipment. "Force recon training, sir," Rodriguez explained professionally, "plus some extra lessons from the Shadowhawk." Through the tactical feeds that remained active, they could see the global impact of the consortium's desperate gambit, but instead of creating covering chaos, their doomsday protocol was exposing everything. Captain Harris's voice crackled through a secured channel. "Consortium facilities worldwide are going dark, but our embedded systems are tracking everything. Their entire shadow network is lighting up." Sarah nodded to Rodriguez. "Show them." The tactical screens displayed a cascade of data, hidden research operations being exposed, secret facilities revealed, decades of carefully concealed communications suddenly laid bare. "You see," Sarah told the devastated consortium members, "we didn't just study your protocols, we rebuilt them. Every failsafe, every emergency system, every last-ditch option, we turned them all into back doors." Volkov struggled against his restraints. "Impossible. Our systems are quantum encrypted by the same technology you were stealing." Sarah's smile was predatory. "The technology we've been studying for 8 years. Amazing what you can learn when you know where to look." Ashcroft's composure finally shattered completely. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The chaos this will cause. Research facilities worldwide will be compromised." "No," Sarah corrected coldly. "Research facilities worldwide will be cleaned. Every corrupt official exposed, every compromised operation revealed, every criminal conspiracy laid bare." Rodriguez monitored the expanding cascade of revelations. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from multiple agencies, consortium sleeper agents, being identified, hidden accounts exposed, black research sites revealed." "The shadows are burning away," Sarah told the consortium leaders. "Everything you built, everything you manipulated, everything you killed to protect, all of it exposed. To the light." Through the command post windows, they could see federal tactical teams securing the perimeter. But these weren't regular units anymore. These were specialized operators responding to international protocols, preparing to take custody of the architects of a global conspiracy. "Your choice now is simple," Sarah explained to the defeated consortium members. "Cooperate fully, tell us everything about your operations, your networks, your hidden protocols. Or," she shrugged, "face justice in every jurisdiction you've corrupted." I hear some of those countries still have very medieval approaches to biological terrorism. Ashcroft made one last attempt at authority. "You don't have the right. We maintained order, controlled the flow of research, prevented..." "Prevented what?" Sarah's voice could have frozen flame. "Prevented justice? Prevented accountability? Prevented the truth about your crimes from coming to light?" Rodriguez reported more incoming data. "Ma'am, intelligence agencies worldwide are coordinating response. They're moving to secure exposed consortium facilities. Arrest identified. Operatives, you've destroyed decades of careful balance, Chen protested weakly. The chaos when these secrets emerge. The balance you maintain through murder, Sarah cut him off, through betrayal, through sacrificing loyal scientists for profit. She moved closer, letting them see the shadowhawk that had haunted criminal. Nightmares. That balance deserved to be destroyed. The consortium members watched their carefully constructed world collapse in real time. Every safeguard they'd created, every protocol they'd established, every fail-safe they'd planned, all of it turned against them by the very type of operator they'd tried to eliminate. The Shadowhawk's hunt was ending, but its impact would echo through research facilities worldwide as decades of corruption finally faced the light of justice. The international task force arrived with precision that impressed even Sarah. Representatives from a dozen intelligence agencies, each with personal reasons to want the consortium brought to justice, each with scores to settle for murdered scientists and compromised research. Quite a reunion, Sarah observed, as familiar faces emerged from tactical vehicles, survivors from Black Star, Kandahar, every operation where the consortium had tried to eliminate witnesses. "Ma'am," Rodriguez monitored the approaching teams. "I'm counting operators from CIA, MI6, Mossad, DGSE, multiple agencies coordinating custody protocols." "Of course," Sarah smiled coldly at the consortium members. "You didn't just corrupt American research. You manipulated every major intelligence service. Now they all want their pound of flesh." Ashcroft watched the approaching operators with growing dread. "You don't understand what you're unleashing. The secrets we protected, the balance we maintained." "You mean the secrets you sold," Sarah cut him off. "The balance you maintained through murder. Amazing how quickly your diplomatic tone vanishes when real justice approaches." Through the command post windows, they could see the international teams deploying with professional efficiency. These weren't regular operators. These were the elite of global intelligence services, the ones who handled the most sensitive operations. "Ma'am!" Rodriguez reported urgently. "We're getting new data from exposed consortium systems, hidden facilities, black sites, unofficial research centers." "Send everything to the task force," Sarah ordered. "Let every agency see exactly how deep the corruption went, how many of their people were sacrificed for consortium profits." Chen made one last desperate attempt at negotiation. "We can still contain this, make arrangements. Your evidence disappears, your people get protection." "Like the protection you offered in Kandahar?" Sarah's voice could have frozen flame. "The same protection that got scientists killed, that buried evidence of your crimes?" The international teams entered with coordinated precision. Sarah recognized many of the operators, survivors like her, ones who'd faced consortium cleanup teams and lived to fight back. "Rachel," she greeted the Mossad team leader, "still have that scar from Black Star?" "Among others," Rachel replied, her Israeli accent carrying cold authority. "Been waiting a long time for this, Shadowhawk." The consortium members watched, their worst nightmare unfold as operators from multiple agencies approached. Men and women they'd tried to eliminate now returned with official sanction and righteous purpose. "Your choice is simple," Sarah told them. "Cooperate fully with every agency here, reveal everything about your operations, and maybe you face justice in civilized jurisdictions. Resist." She nodded to the assembled operators. "Well, I hear some countries still have very medieval approaches to dealing with bioterrorists." Rodriguez monitored the expanding global response. "Ma'am, we're getting reports worldwide. Consortium facilities being secured, sleeper agents arrested, hidden accounts frozen." "The shadows are burning away," Sarah explained to the defeated consortium members. "Everything you built, everything you killed to protect, everything you manipulated, all of it exposed to the light." Through secure channels, intelligence services coordinated the dismantling of the consortium's shadow empire, decades of careful manipulation and hidden control crumbling in real time. "You've destroyed everything," Volkov protested weakly. "The careful balance of power, the balance you maintained through corruption," Rachel's voice carried years of controlled anger. "Through betrayal, through sacrificing loyal scientists for profit." Sarah watched the international teams prepare to take custody. Each agency had its own charges to file, its own justice to pursue. The consortium leaders would face accountability in multiple jurisdictions. "Ma'am," Rodriguez called out, checking tactical feeds. "More consortium facilities going dark worldwide, but our embedded systems are tracking everything. Their entire shadow network is exposed." "Show them," Sarah ordered. The tactical screens displayed the cascade of revelations. Hidden operations exposed, secret facilities revealed, decades of carefully concealed communications laid bare for every intelligence service to examine. "You see," Sarah told the consortium members, "we didn't just study your networks, we rebuilt them. Every fail-safe, every protocol, every emergency system, we turned them all into backdoors." Ashcroft's face showed pure hatred now. "You have no idea what you've done, the chaos when these secrets emerge." "Actually, I do," Sarah smiled coldly. "I understand exactly what happens when decades of corruption are exposed, when compromised scientists realize they've been manipulated, when professional operators discover they've been working for criminals." The international teams moved with practiced efficiency, securing the consortium members for transport. Each operator carried personal motivation. Colleagues lost to consortium cleanup operations, careers destroyed by their manipulation, lives shattered by their corruption. "The Shadow Hawk's hunt is ending," Sarah announced, watching justice approach. "But your trials are just beginning. Every agency here has charges to file. Every service has scores to settle." Through the command post windows they could see more tactical teams arriving. The warehouse had become a focal point of international accountability, where decades of shadow manipulation finally faced the light. The hunt was over, but its impact would echo through intelligence services worldwide as the full scope of the consortium's crimes came to light, and justice, long delayed, finally arrived. Sunrise painted the New Mexico desert gold, as Sarah Mitchell stood on the Ramirez warehouse loading dock, watching the international teams prepare for transport. The consortium members were being separated, each senior leader headed to a different jurisdiction to face justice for specific crimes. "Final count," Rodriguez reported, checking his tablet. 312 consortium facilities exposed worldwide. Over 2,000 compromised scientists identified. Countless black research operations revealed. "And that's just the beginning," Harris added, joining them. "Intelligence services worldwide are still digging through the evidence, finding connections we never imagined." Sarah nodded, watching Ashcroft being loaded into an armored transport. They built their power on shadows, used them to hide their manipulation, their crimes, their control over global research. But shadows work both ways. Rodriguez understood. Sometimes they hide the hunters, not just the hunted. Rachel approached from her Mossad tactical team. "Shadow Hawk, Black Star facility is secure. Found evidence of everything. The cleanup operations, the eliminated scientists, the classified sales." "Send copies to every agency," Sarah ordered. "Let them all see how deep the corruption went, how many of their people were sacrificed for consortium profits." Through the morning mist, more tactical vehicles arrived, each international team preparing to transport their prisoners, their evidence, their piece of the dismantled Shadow Empire. "Ma'am!" Rodriguez called out, monitoring global communications. "We're getting updates from multiple agencies. Consortium sleeper agents being arrested, hidden accounts frozen, black research operations exposed." "The dominoes are falling," Harris observed. "Every corrupt official, every compromised scientist, every hidden operation, all of it coming to light." Sarah watched Chen being transferred to Israeli custody. The former consortium member's diplomatic facade had crumbled, completely, replaced by the fear of someone facing real consequences. "You know what happens next," Sarah told him quietly. "Every agency you manipulated, every service you corrupted, they all want answers about their lost scientists, their compromised research, their betrayed trust." "You've destroyed everything," Chen protested weakly. "Decades of careful balance. The balance you maintained through murder." Rachel's voice carried controlled fury. "Through betrayal, through sacrificing loyal scientists for profit." Around them, the international teams continued their precise work, each operator carrying personal motivation. Colleagues lost to consortium cleanup operations, careers destroyed by their manipulation, lives shattered by their corruption. "Ma'am," Rodriguez reported, checking tactical feeds, "more consortium facilities being secured worldwide. Intelligence services coordinating response on every continent." Sarah nodded, watching Volkov being prepared for transport to European intelligence. "Send everything to the International Task Force, every piece of evidence, every exposed connection, every revealed operation." "The ripples are still spreading," Harris noted. "This goes deeper than anyone imagined. Military research, political influence, international security protocols." "They didn't just corrupt intelligence services," Sarah explained. "They corrupted the entire system, used their shadows to manipulate global research for profit. Through secure channels, they could hear the coordinated response continuing worldwide. Decades of careful manipulation crumbling as evidence exposed the true scope of consortium operations." "Ma'am," Rodriguez called out, monitoring communications. "We're getting requests from multiple agencies. They all want to debrief you, understand how you exposed the consortium's network." "Tell them the truth," Sarah smiled coldly. "Tell them about shadows, about hunters who learned to wait, about ghosts who never forgot." Rachel checked her tactical gear, preparing to escort her prisoners. 8 years, Shadowhawk. 8 years you hunted them, built your network, prepared for this moment. They gave me time." Sarah watched Ashcroft's transport prepare to depart. "After Kandahar, after they tried to eliminate me, they thought I was finished, just another loose end tied up. Instead," Rodriguez understood, "you became something else, something that hunted them from inside their own shadows." The morning sun climbed higher as the international teams finished their preparations. Each agency had its own prisoners to transport, its own evidence to process, its own justice to pursue. "The consortium's reign is over," Harris announced, watching the vehicles depart. Their shadow empire exposed, their manipulation revealed, their power broken. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained watchful. "The immediate threat is contained, but the ripples will continue. More corruption will be exposed, more conspiracies revealed, more shadows burned away." "And the Shadowhawk?" Rachel asked, quietly. "What happens to the hunter when the prey is caught?" "There are always more shadows," Sarah replied. "Always more corruption to expose, always more justice to pursue." Rodriguez monitored the departing transports on tactical feeds. Each prisoner to a different jurisdiction. Each agency gets their chance at justice. As it should be. Sarah watched the vehicles disappear into the morning light. Let them face accountability in every nation they corrupted. Let them answer for every scientist they sacrificed, every operation they compromised, every life They destroyed. The warehouse that had seen the consortium's final fall now stood quiet in the New Mexico morning, but its impact would echo through intelligence services worldwide as decades of corruption finally faced the light of justice. Ma'am, Rodriguez reported one final update. All consortium prisoners secure, all evidence transmitted, all agencies coordinating response. Sarah nodded, watching the last transport vanish into the distance. The Shadowhawk's hunt is finished, but the work continues. There are always more shadows to burn away, always more justice to pursue. The morning sun painted the desert gold as the international teams departed, each carrying a piece of the dismantled Shadow Empire, each pursuing their own justice for years of corruption and betrayal. The Shadowhawk's mission was complete, but its impact would continue, echoing through intelligence services worldwide as decades of manipulation finally faced the consequences of their actions. "Time to go home," Sarah told her team. "Back to the ranch, back to the quiet life." But they all knew the truth. For people like them, survivors, hunters, shadows, the work was never really finished. There would always be more darkness to expose, always more justice to pursue. The Shadowhawk might return to its ranch, but it would always be watching, always ready to hunt again if darkness threatened to rise. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't. Want to pass these up? Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.